Put something on your website and just spend a day watching how people go through your website. Watch on mobile, watch on your computer, and you are almost certainly going to see things in a different way. Try and look at your website through a fresh pair of eyes, and I think you'll find a lot of opportunities to.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott Brandley.
And I'm DJ Sprague. Today we're super excited to have John Horn from the StubGroup. And I get the exclusive pleasure of introducing you. So John is the CEO of the StubGroup, a digital advertising agency and premier Google partner. His company has generated over $400 million in revenue for their clients. And
Nice.
John has personally taught digital advertising to over 100,000 students through online courses. It's pretty impressive, John.
DJ, Scott, thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to chatting with you guys. Go back a long way with Shopper Approved and as a partner, recommending you guys to our clients. So really excited to be chatting today.
Yeah, it's nice to have you on the podcast. Let's kick it off. So you're in the PPC industry, right? Doing paid ads, and you're a Google partner, premier partner, right? Which is pretty cool. So you've got a lot of experience in this space. And so what do you think is the biggest mistake that e-commerce websites make with their paid traffic strategy?
I would say the biggest mistake I'm seeing right now is too much of a focus on last click attribution in saying which campaigns or which channels are being successful for them. So, we've all kind of been sold this idea of we know where every single order is coming from. We can track it down with perfection. And unfortunately, that's not true. It used to be easier. I mean, it's never really been true fully. It used to be easier. It's gotten much harder over time for various reasons. But we see a lot of clients being incredibly focused on what I call in-app return on ad spend. So I've got my Google Ads account pulled open. This campaign has a 5x ROAS. This campaign has a 3x ROAS. Well, the 5x must be doing better. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We've got to look at what's actually making people aware of the brand and generating interest and getting that top of funnel traffic, that cold traffic, turning that into warm traffic that then converts. And so a lot of people are trying to kind of make that shift in their mindset right now towards a more of a holistic perspective on attribution and how their campaigns are working.
Yeah, that's really been the buzz a lot lately, hasn't it? The whole attribution model, it never was, like you say, perfect. We always wanted to think it was perfect. And then everybody got completely enamored with last click attribution and started losing focus on top funnel and top line advertising, PR, marketing, analog and digital, and just putting all their money into that last click and thinking that was the mother lode, and yet everything dried up when they did that. Can you give us a little bit more kind of your experience with that and why you think that's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of interesting right now because this idea of last click attribution is becoming known by a lot of people outside the ad industry because of things that happened very recently with the Honey browser extension. So it's this browser extension that tons and tons of people promoted, influencers, et cetera, through YouTube. And the way they approach things is, if you kind of used Honey coupon on a website, then Honey essentially got credit for that order and got a cut of the order. Whereas obviously Honey is not the place where people found them to begin with. And people are kind of realizing, oh, wait, what is this thing called last click attribution? And it's just kind of getting more wide awareness outside of the ad industry, which is kind of fascinating right now. A little bit of a side note there. But I would say, to answer your question in terms of how we're trying to help our clients think about it, there's a number of ways, and none of them are perfect. So the first conversation is, hey, there is no perfect method. There is no perfect attribution these days, and we can't have the expectation that it's perfect. Some businesses will use, attribution modeling tools like Northbeam or Triple Whale or Helios or different things that say, hey, we'll tell you how the Facebook clicks are interacting with the Google clicks or interacting with other channels and how they're driving revenue for you. And I think there's some value in those tools. I will say, from what I've seen, I have some skepticism about the accuracy of those tools. And I do think that they can create this idea in, again, e-commerce brand owners that they really know how everything is performing, whereas they don't really know how everything is performing. So we don't tend to rely too much on those tools. It's very much depends on the brand and what they're kind of interested and open to. We also spend a lot of time looking at really just bigger picture metrics, the things like media efficiency ratio. How much revenue are we pulling in? How is that changing? when we allocate ad spend to different strategies, to different channels? Are we simply spending more money and not seeing that revenue increase and therefore seeing the efficiency of that media spend decrease? Or, hey, when we invest into, let's say, YouTube, for example, do we start to see a bump in revenue as that, traffic from YouTube starts trickling into actual sales down the road? Another thing that we've found interesting for some clients is using tools like No Commerce is one. I think it's KNO Commerce, where they will simply ask people after placing an order, how did you find out about this site? And again, certainly not perfect. People aren't probably going to say, oh, well, I saw the Facebook ad 5 times and then the Google ad, then I clicked the organic, but they will sometimes give you useful information like, oh, I saw you on Reddit. I saw your YouTube ad, whatever. And so there's some anecdotal insights that can be pulled from that as well when you're just looking at, trying to understand ultimately that big picture of how new customers are finding your brand.
Yeah, those are all good strategies. I mean, at the end of the day, it's messy and it's directional at best. If you've been following Jim Stern and Rand Fishkin, but they've been talking about this as well, that analytics isn't what we thought it was, and you certainly can't die in the sword with last click. And people are really going back to what we did decades ago, which is advertising and just being out there and just creating awareness. And yeah, you can't track it, but it does drive the top of the funnel and it gets people aware of your brand and at least looking into your brand.
Absolutely.
That said, how are you helping your clients optimize ROI from paid traffic in today's environment and knowing what we know today?
It is I guess for lack of a better word, I'll say it's a cutthroat environment right now. It's just, there's so much competition. There are so many people who are fighting for every dollar in the e-commerce space. Every now and then you might find a niche that's relatively quiet, but for the vast majority of businesses, that's not the case. And you're fighting both with the big guys like Amazon, obviously, as well as other, smaller brands that are advertising direct to consumer through their websites. And so, we spend a lot of time talking with our clients about how important it is to do a couple of things. A, to make that website experience as seamless as possible. And there are tools you can use to see how people are using your website. So for example, Microsoft Clarity is a free tool. It's a tool we like to use for a lot of our clients that tracks how people are using the website. You can watch, videos of people clicking around your pages and you can identify obstacles like, oh, they're clicking on this thing over here. They think it's a button. It's not a button. And that's, frustrating them or confusing them. Or, hey, they're going all over the place to try, it looks like, to find a piece of information. Let's put that piece of information right in front of them on the product page. Things like that. So tools like that to see just how people are using the website can be very helpful. Yeah, speed is incredibly important. No big surprise there, but people do not like slow websites. And every second that you can decrease your website load time can have a significant impact on your conversion rate. So making sure it loads tightly, loads quickly. Video also is king right now. So having videos on your product pages and on your website, whether that be showing off the product, or video reviews from creators you've worked with, from customers, things like that can be incredibly powerful at convincing people to place that purchase. Obviously, having reviews is incredibly important, and something that we talk with all our clients about is we've got to create credibility. A lot of people have been burned by fly-by-night e-commerce stores. This was especially a problem when COVID hit, and everybody and their dog threw up a drop shipping website, and there were so many scams and things going on to the point where Google got way more aggressive at actually suspending e-commerce websites until they could kind of prove their legitimacy. And so a lot of people understand, sometimes myself included, will say, well, I know what I'm getting with Amazon, generally speaking. I'll go buy from Amazon, and you're competing with that. And so you've got to make your website look incredibly credible, again, with reviews, with a well-structured website, with answering the questions people are going to ask, ideally with video content, good product imagery, stuff like that. So nothing too groundbreaking there, I would say, but the basics are still incredibly important today in driving good conversion rates in e-commerce.
Great. So to recap, heat maps, session recordings, social proof, user-generated content, clean, fast-loading site, all core basics. Yep.
I like your holistic approach. A lot of companies miss that, right? Especially when you're dealing with PPC, you're just throwing an ad up and seeing what ad clicks. But really, if you think about it from a strategic perspective, there's a whole world after the click. You got to build their trust, like you were saying, right? It's got to look good. It's got to look credible. They've got to continue on to the checkout and actually buy the product. I appreciate that as a business owner that you're looking at your clients' problems holistically and trying to find solutions that are long-term and not just quick fix.
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses, to your point, they look at advertising as kind of a magic bullet that's going to fix their problems. And they look at advertising, like you said, as, well, okay, if people are clicking my ads, then why, they should be purchasing because we have a great product or whatever. But no, it's that understanding of that ad is the tip of the iceberg. It is making people interested in your product. It's making them aware that you are a solution for their need, etc. But then once they've interacted, then the journey has really just begun. It has not ended. You have to earn their trust. You have to think about not even just your website, but what's your reputation online. When someone goes and Googles you to check you out, you need to be aware of what's coming up. And if people are like, oh, is this place a scam or whatever? Like, well, you're going to lose a tremendous amount of business if you're not appropriately dealing with those types of things. If somebody's leaving you a negative review, leaving a professional reply to that as to what happened, how you fixed the problem, etc. All of those things, like you said, holistically, are what the really successful e-commerce brands are doing right now to rise above the rest of the herd.
So reputation management.
100%.
Manage your reputation online from search to checkout. Next big question. So what impact will AI and zero-click search results have on paid traffic? Obviously, we're seeing massive growth in zero-click searches. I think they're up to 60% now. So what's that going to do to paid ads?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And the zero-click searches, for anybody listening or watching who doesn't know what those are, that right now. So it used to be things like the knowledge graph that Google would show. Now it's AI overviews, generally speaking. So you search something on Google, and Google tries to answer your question before they even link anywhere. Now, of course, they provide sources these days to those answers as well, so you can kind of dig into it, click on the hyperlinks, go further. But from an ad perspective, Google has said they're going to bring ads to AI overviews, but they've released very little information so far about what that's going to look like. Some of the examples they've given so far are like a screenshot of, hey, searching for a cleaning product, like what's the best cleaning product to clean up this mess. And then below, as part of the AI overview, then there's links to go purchase some of the cleaning products that are mentioned from different websites. And that's kind of one of the primary examples that I've seen them share of what it could look like when those ads get fully rolled out. So the way I look at it is, Google likes to make money. They're all about the monetization. They have, requirement to make as much money as possible for their shareholders. And I think that the real estate in these AI overviews is simply too valuable for them to ignore, especially if we see people getting more trusting of those answers and not actually clicking through to the links, but really just taking and reading and running with what Google puts there. So I believe, as Google has announced, that they're going to roll ads out to that space. Exactly when or how that looks, I don't know. And that's definitely one of the big things that we're monitoring and thinking about is, okay, how is it going to roll out? And how much control are we as advertisers going to have over that? Because again, Google, they love making money and they like building black boxes where only they control what's going on. And so there's definitely this kind of push and pull right now between advertisers and Google, where advertisers are saying, we need transparency. We need to understand where our traffic is coming from, how much we're paying for it, how we can have control over paying more or paying less or getting this type of traffic or not. And hopefully Google will listen to that. We've seen some improvements in how they approach other campaign types like Performance Max campaigns, where they have done some good things in terms of giving advertisers more transparency. And I'm hopeful. Optimistic might be too strong a word, but hopeful that they will apply that same type of thinking when they roll out advertising in these AI overview areas.
It's a lot going on. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of faith. It's a lot of, wait and see, because the landscape is changing rapidly. People's, search patterns, search results, click patterns, expectations are changing so much. Just as a little sidebar, what do you think about things like searches in Perplexity AI and ChatGPT? How much search traffic do you think those types of tools are going to basically rob from Google?
That's an incredibly important question, and kind of the existential threat and question that Google is thinking about right now. Yeah, from just an anecdotal personal experience, I made my first purchase recently through Perplexity. I was, looking up, I needed to buy an educational course related to something, and I just asked Perplexity, okay, what are some of the best courses? And it gave me a great overview of some of the top courses, the pros and the cons. And then I said, hey, find me some coupon codes related to these courses. And it found me some coupon codes, and then boom, went and purchased. So it's very much a thing. And then also, things like ChatGPT use that more and more often. From an impression share perspective, at the moment, those other engines still have a very small percentage of impression share. The last kind of extrapolated report that I saw, I think was released in November, was that ChatGPT might have, I believe it was 5% or so of search impression share, at least in some demographics. Very small, but that was, I think, up from 1% earlier in the year, which is an incredible, trajectory. And obviously, if it maintained that trajectory, it would very, very quickly take a very large amount of impression share from Google. So I am certainly not the smartest person in AI. I know very little when it comes to it, but I would say what I see and what I think is going to happen is early adopters will, already are and will continue to use tools outside of Google, like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Brave, etc. I think the majority of consumers, it's going to take a while for them to learn new habits, because we are such creatures of habit as humans, and Google is our go-to for everything, and it's integrated into everything between Google Maps and Gmail and Google Docs and everything. And so I don't think, like in 2025, as an example, that Google's going to lose tons and tons of impression share to these other channels. But I do think that over time, if they continue to improve and can continue to grow at the rate they have right now, and if Google is not able to, really answer that by kind of changing how search engines work and changing how they deliver up information, that we will probably come to a day where Google loses their essentially monopoly on search behavior, and where there will be a variety of different tools that you use for different types of searches. You might use ChatGPT for this type of thing, Perplexity for that type of thing, maybe Google for this type of thing, but it won't always just be, Google it, and that's the starting point of every journey.
It's a great response. I mean, I know for me, I would say easily 60 to 70% of my searches are Perplexity now.
Yeah.
I just don't go to Google, first off, honestly. So I'm just wondering, what your thoughts are, because I know for me, I've already switched. And to get me to go back to Google is probably going to be a real struggle.
Yeah. And I think the big question is, because I think probably all of us in this call would be classified as more early adopters. We're in this stuff, we're in this software, the technology, on the cutting edge of understanding what's going on. And so we are, obviously adopting early these solutions that come out. The big question in my mind is for just the general consumer who's not spending that much time paying attention to those things, what's it going to take to make them change their habits and go to something like a Perplexity?
So, okay, next question I have. So tell us a little bit more about StubGroup and what makes you different than other PPC companies out there.
Yeah, so StubGroup, we've been doing what we do for a little over a decade at this point, and strong focus on paid search platforms like Google, paid social platforms like Meta, as well as some additional services we're getting into that complement and kind of go beyond the paid side of things. And we get to work with a pretty wide variety of different types of businesses, but really the focus that we put on those businesses is that performance marketing is to not be focused on the vanity metrics that got you this many views, etc., but really be digging into, okay, who is your target audience? How are we spending your money most effectively to reach them? To the extent that we can track the impact of the ads, making sure we have that dialed in as much as possible, and working with them to look at things from a profit perspective. So we have a lot of conversations with our clients about profit. How do we maximize your profit? It's not necessarily, we have to hit a 3x ROAS, and everything that's hitting a 3x ROAS is good, everything not is bad. It's no, how can we look at things, again, kind of use the word you mentioned, Scott, more holistically to really understand what's working for your brand, and how can we be generating new customers for you, not just spending all of your money, going after your remarketing audience, people who are already warm, and therefore it looks like you have a great return on ad spend, but you can't grow a brand just going after people who've been to your website one time unless you're continuing to get more of those people to your website through higher funnel advertising. So we spend a lot of time in conversations like that. Another kind of unique thing about StubGroup, I would say, is our focus on compliance with the platforms we're using, especially Google. So Google has a myriad of policies, and they enforce those policies on advertisers in a very, I would say, unfortunately, in an inconsistent manner with very little transparency. And so advertisers constantly have issues where either it's, oh, my ads are disapproved, or even worse, my account is suspended. And I don't know why. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't even know if I did anything wrong, or if Google just flagged me incorrectly. And then it's really hard to get back from those things. And so we built a lot of experience in that space and actually have a whole team internally focused just on Google policies and compliance, and helping both our clients as well as other businesses who reach out and hire us for help with this area to fix policy issues, be compliant with Google, work through Google's appeal process to get their ads back online. And it's kind of become a very niche but important part of what we do for our clients.
Tell us real quickly, what does your ideal client look like?
Our ideal client is, I would say, usually is a client who's already established, or a business who's established and kind of proven that they have a product or service that people want. That's not to say that we don't work with startups all the time, new businesses. We do, but we love seeing people who already have some proven success, and then we can come alongside and help them grow that and scale that and put fuel on that fire. So ideally, they already have a good business running. Often they've already done some advertising, and they're just looking for expertise to take things to the next level. From an ad spend perspective, we work with a very wide variety of budgets. I would say a lot of our clients kind of fit into the $10,000 to $70,000 per month budget range. Although again, we have lower and higher than that as well. And I'd say most importantly, not so much what business are they in, but how do they think about business? Are they willing to be a good partner? And it makes such a difference working with a business who is like, okay, we're in this together. Let's figure out how to make my business successful. Versus some of those businesses where they hire you, and then it feels like it's constantly like they're on this team and you're on this team. They're like, okay, well, why isn't this working, and why isn't this better, and oh, you messed up here and whatever. And it's like, no, we're on the same team. You're hiring us to make you successful. Let's have a good partnership, and we'll do our job to the best of our ability. We'll help them understand what we need from them to make us successful and to help make them successful, and kind of view things as a partnership. So I guess a wide ranging answer there, but it's less what type of business and more their thought process behind business that makes them good fits for us.
Always makes sense. You've got to be aligned philosophically, right? Otherwise you're going in opposite directions. Well, thanks, John. So now the final big $1 million question. As a PPC expert, what's the one thing that an e-commerce brand can do today to create the biggest impact on their revenue?
I would say there's a lot of different things I could pick. The one thing I'm gonna pick actually is just very tangible. Going back to earlier in our conversation when we were talking about tools like Microsoft Clarity, put something on your website and just spend a day watching how people go through your website. Watch on mobile, watch on your computer, and you are almost certainly going to see things in a different way because you're used to your website, where everything is, what to expect. You're kind of, blind to things that are just incredibly confusing or obvious to other people. So try and look at your website through a fresh pair of eyes. And I think you'll find a lot of opportunities to improve performance and conversion rate.
Fantastic. Again, good, solid logic. Well, John, it's been fantastic having you on the show. Obviously, you have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience in e-commerce and PPC and driving traffic and revenue. Thanks again, John. John Horn, CEO of the StubGroup. Thanks for tuning in today, and have an amazing day. See you next time.